If you're someone who thrives on horror stories, twisted mysteries buried beneath rotting floorboards and behind locked doors, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the terrifying tales we bring you. Because what you're about to hear isn't just another ghost story. It's one that has haunted an entire town for over 30 years. And the worst part? It's not over yet. The first person to see the house was a 6-year-old boy who wandered off one autumn afternoon in 1993. The wind was howling through the trees, dead leaves swirling across the dirt road with no name. And at the bottom of the hill stood the house, gray, crumbling, silent, like a corpse forgotten deep in the woods. The boy was found 2 days later, shaking uncontrollably, his skin pale and lips blue. He remembered nothing, except one phrase he repeated until his voice gave out. "It has no face. It whispers. It's inside the walls." Police dismissed it as a child's imagination. That is, until years later when grown men in uniform would flee the same place in the middle of the night, refusing to ever speak of what they saw. Bellevue is a small town tucked deep in the Pennsylvania woods, where time seems to have stopped. The houses are old and moss-covered, the roads narrow and winding, and the people, well, they keep to themselves, whispering warnings instead of exchanging greetings. The house sits on the northern edge of town, buried beneath thick foliage and constant shade, as if nature itself was trying to smother it. No one has lived there since 1967, after the strange and grisly death of the Mallory family. The parents were found with altered faces. No signs of violence, no bruising, but their skin had been pulled tight across their skulls, erasing every feature. The youngest daughter was never found. The house was left to rot, and the town pretended it never existed. Then, in 2007, the Bellevue Police Department received over 30 separate calls from residents living near the woods. Each one told the same story. Around 3 a.m., they heard whispering, soft, persistent, like someone murmuring secrets just outside the window. Some even claimed to see a figure standing behind the second-floor window of the old Mallory house. That window had been boarded up for decades. 3 officers were sent on separate nights to investigate. 2 came back shaken. The third, Officer John Halley, disappeared during his shift. His radio crackled with static, interrupted only by a strange rasping sound that experts could never explain. Then, just like that, his file was sealed. Officially, no one spoke of him again. But the people of Bellevue knew the thing in that house was real, and it had never left. What follows is based on footage recorded by a group of college students who entered the house in 2019 as part of a documentary project. There were 8 of them. Only 2 returned, and neither of them were ever the same. When the group arrived in Bellevue, they were met with silence, suspicious stares, doors closed quietly but firmly when they asked about the house. But they were determined, especially Mia, who had found an old map with a crude mark where the house stood. She believed they would uncover something no one else had dared to capture. The cameras began rolling the moment they passed through the rusted iron gate, overgrown with moss and heavy with the scent of wet decay. The ground floor was a maze of collapsing rooms, wallpaper peeling in long strips, revealing blackened wood beneath. Every step echoed too long, as if the house stretched time in subtle ways. Jake, one of the crew members, later recalled feeling something moving inside the walls, tracking their steps. They discovered an old journal hidden behind the broken fireplace. Most of the pages were ruined, but one entry remained legible. "I locked it in the basement, but it still whispers in my dreams." As they finished reading, the flashlight began to flicker. Then came the sound, like soft breathing from behind the basement door. Mia insisted they go down. She believed this was the climax of their story, the point where legend would become truth. But what they found wasn't an answer, it was a warning. Scratch marks covered the walls, clumps of hair were wedged into cracks between the bricks, and the stench, an unbearable rot that seemed to cling to the inside of their throats. At the back of the basement was a sealed room, boarded shut with thick wooden planks. Each one bore strange symbols, crudely carved, not protection, containment. Jake pulled one of the planks loose. What happened next was never clear. The footage distorted, images bent and twisted, sounds echoed unnaturally. Something dark passed in front of the lens, a shape with no face, no eyes, no mouth. just smooth, pale skin stretched over a head that turned slowly toward the camera as if it knew it was being watched. In the 2 days that followed, the group unraveled. One by one, they disappeared. No screams, no struggle, just gone. The cameras continued to roll, and then they didn't. Only Mia and Luke remained. They fled, leaving behind their equipment and notes, taking only a single notebook. But the thing they'd unleashed didn't let go so easily. On the last page of the notebook, written in what looked like blood, were the words, "It's learning how to have a face, and it wants mine." Neither Mia nor Luke could speak about what happened. They were found wandering near the tree line, blank-eyed, covered in scratches, unable to remember their own names. Doctors declared them mentally unstable. Whatever they saw, it shattered something inside them. The only surviving evidence was the corrupted footage and the notebook. The house was finally sealed off by the state, permanently. But locals swear that on misty nights, if you walk down that old dirt path, you'll still hear the whispers calling out softly like a breath against your ear. The Bellevue police no longer respond to calls from that part of town. Any mention of the Faceless Man is dismissed as delusion. But that doesn't mean he's gone. It only means you haven't heard him yet. So the next time you pass by an abandoned house and feel like someone is watching, remember, sometimes silence isn't safety. It's an invitation. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more horrifying stories like this, because what you've just heard is only the beginning.